Number 1. Jack Doherty. Sheer audacity defined Jack Doherty's life of viral stunts, but one early morning bet in Miami Beach nearly upended it all. Jack Colin Doherty, born October 8, 2003, on Long Island, New York, became a household name online by his early 20s. He built his fame through stunt and prank videos, racing his way into millions of followers across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Known for his high-risk, high-reward style and a flair for controversy, he racked up more than 15 million YouTube subscribers as of late 2025. But that reputation came at a cost. On the night of November 14, 2025, Doherty was partying on a yacht in Miami, posting in his Instagram stories, teasing live streams, and generally living as only social media royalty can. In his mind, the next morning's content would just be another viral moment. He didn't see it coming as a turning point. In the early hours around 3:12 a.m., a police unit was running a high-visibility enforcement detail along Washington Avenue in Miami Beach's entertainment district. Doherty and a group with him stepped into the road, right into traffic. Not by accident, police say, but by design. He was filming, creating content. Officers repeatedly told him to move to the sidewalk, to step out of the lane of passing cars, but Doherty refused. According to arrest documents, he told police, "Once I'm done with this bet." As the standoff dragged on, tension mounted. His friends urged him to comply, but he stood firm. Then, officers finally made the move to arrest him. In the ensuing search, they discovered half of an orange oval-shaped pill imprinted with the number 3, consistent with a Schedule II amphetamine, and 3 hand-rolled cannabis cigarettes totaling about 4 grams. Doherty was taken into custody and booked into the Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center. His bond was set at $3,500, a relatively modest amount for someone of his online stature. Given his massive following and the risky nature of his content, the discovery was a sobering one. This wasn't just a stunt gone wrong. It was a confrontation with the law. The charges brought against him were possession of a controlled substance, amphetamine, possession of no more than 20 grams of cannabis, and resisting arrest without violence. Law enforcement's perspective was serious. The Miami Beach Police Department emphasized that the arrest underlines their commitment to public safety, regardless of celebrity status. Meanwhile, in his own post-arrest commentary, Doherty called the experience the worst 24 hours ever and insisted that officers overreacted. For someone whose life was broadcast for clicks, this incident became another viral moment, but one with real-world consequences. There's no public record yet, as of now, of a full trial or conviction. What we do know is that after his booking, he posted bond and walked out under the weight of serious charges. This episode raises a deeper question. How far will creators go in pursuit of content, and what line separates daring entertainment from recklessness? Jack Doherty's story, once defined by daredevil pranks, now carries a new gravity, a reminder that influences don't make one immune from the law. Number 2, Kai Cenat. He always seemed like the kind of creator who could light up any room. But one summer afternoon in New York City, that energy ignited something nobody expected. Before any headlines or legal trouble, Kai Cenat was one of the biggest rising stars in streaming. Born in December 2001 in the Bronx and raised in a busy, close-knit family, he built his reputation on humor, nonstop energy, and a work ethic that rarely paused. His videos were fast, loud, creative, and completely his. By 2023, he had become one of the most watched personalities on Twitch, pulling in millions of viewers and winning awards for his marathon streams. To most fans, he was the entertainer who made late nights fun and brought people together. Nothing about him suggested he'd ever be connected to a criminal charge, let alone one tied to a crowd spiraling out of control. But on August 4th, 2023, everything changed. That afternoon, Kai announced that he would be doing a massive giveaway in Union Square, a place that, on any normal day, was already busy enough. The promise was simple: free PlayStations, gift cards, and high-end gaming accessories, a thank you to his community, a show of appreciation, something fun. But imagine thousands of people taking that message as a call to action, pouring into the square hours before the event, filling streets, sidewalks, subway exits, and even climbing onto structures just to get a better view. Word spread fast, faster than anyone expected, and the crowd grew beyond anything a spontaneous meetup could safely handle. As the tension built, people pushed against each other, trying to get closer. Some climbed on cars, others set off fireworks, and a few turned the excitement into something far more volatile. What began as a celebratory meet and greet morphed into chaos, property damage, small fires, and police struggling to disperse an increasingly restless crowd. You could almost feel that shift from anticipation to disorder, and it happened in minutes. By the time officers began clearing the square, the event was already being called a full-scale riot, and in the center of it was Kai, the person whose post had drawn the crowd in the first place. The investigation happened quickly. Police reviewed footage, crowd behavior, and Kai's own livestream clips that showed him arriving in a vehicle, trying to speak to fans, and eventually being escorted away for safety. To authorities, it didn't matter whether the chaos was intentional. What mattered was that the gathering had grown so large, so fast, that it became dangerous for everyone involved. Later that day, officers took Kai into custody. He was charged with inciting a riot and unlawful assembly, serious accusations for a creator whose career ran on enthusiasm and connection. For many of his viewers, it felt surreal. How could a giveaway lead to criminal charges? How could something meant as a gift turn into a citywide emergency? Those were the questions echoing through social media as the story spread. The legal process that followed centered on responsibility. Prosecutors argued that someone with Kai's influence should have known the risk of announcing a major event without permits or security. They pointed to the size of his platform, the speed at which his posts travel, and the way his audience tends to respond. The defense emphasized that he never intended harm. They argued he wanted to meet fans, celebrate his success with the people who helped build it, and share something positive. They stressed that the destructive behavior came from a small portion of the crowd, not from Kai himself. Ultimately, the case did not go to a long, drawn-out trial. Kai received a desk appearance ticket, meaning he was formally charged but not held in jail, and was released later that day. For the court, it was a way to address the seriousness of the incident while recognizing that the chaos was not planned violence, but a situation that spun wildly out of control. In the months that followed, Kai returned to streaming, addressing the incident carefully. He spoke about the shock of seeing something meant to bring joy transform into something dangerous. He emphasized safety, planning, and understanding the scale of his influence, and he made it clear that the experience changed him, not just as a creator, but as someone whose every online message can ripple into the real world. Today, Kai continues to be one of the most influential streamers on the internet, but the Union Square incident remains a defining moment. It's a reminder of the thin line between excitement and escalation, and how quickly a crowd can shift when energy turns into tension. And it leaves a lingering thought. In a world where a single post can mobilize thousands, what responsibility do public figures carry? Not just for what they intend, but for what their influence can unleash. Number 3. Vitaly Zdorovetski. He built a career on pushing limits, but in the spring of 2025, Vitaly Zdorovetsky discovered what happens when a stunt crosses a line in a place that doesn't find it entertaining. Before the headlines and charges, Vitaly was one of the most recognizable prank creators on the internet. Born in Russia and raised in Florida, he became famous under the name Vitalized TV. His early videos blended shock, humor, and fearless energy, earning him millions of followers. At his peak, he was known globally, not just as a YouTuber, but as the guy who always took things one step further than anyone expected. Over the years, he made appearances at sporting events, created viral pranks, and cultivated an image built on adrenaline and unpredictability. As his audience grew, so did the stunts, eventually shifting into the world of IRL streaming where limits are tested in real time, with no edits and no do-overs. By April 2025, Vitaly was traveling internationally, live streaming his adventures in the Philippines. Manila's busy streets became the backdrop for his content. Chaotic markets, heavy traffic, crowds that reacted instantly to anything out of place. At first, the streams were typical for him, loud, spontaneous, edgy. But as the days went on, viewers noticed the energy change. The stunts grew bolder, pushing from harmless troublemaking into confrontations with strangers who had no idea they were being filmed for entertainment. Then came the day everything unraveled. Imagine a busy Manila street, loud with engines, vendors calling out, commuters weaving between cars. In the middle of it all, Vitaly live-streamed encounters that quickly escalated, taking a motorcycle without permission, grabbing items like an electric fan from passers-by, and provoking reactions for the camera. What might have passed online as extreme content was seen very differently by local authorities. In a city where the streets run on strict order and where law enforcement moves quickly to maintain it, these actions were treated not as pranks, but as real disruptions. Word of the incidents spread fast. Clips circulated showing the escalating behavior. What viewers saw as chaotic entertainment became, for police, a list of potential criminal acts. By the time officers located him, tension was already high. Authorities detained Vitaly and brought him in for questioning, reviewing hours of live stream footage. His online persona, the fearless prankster, met the reality of a legal system that did not tolerate disorder created for views. The investigation focused on several key actions caught clearly on camera. Each one was cataloged, matched with witness statements, and assessed under local law. The charges filed were serious but precise: unjust vexation, theft, and public disturbance. They reflected the Philippine legal view that disrupting people's daily lives, taking property even briefly, and creating chaos in public spaces are offenses with real consequences. As news of his arrest broke, fans were stunned. Many had grown used to his high-risk style, but few imagined it would lead to charges abroad. For Vitaly, the situation marked a breaking point, a moment where entertainment collided with accountability. The legal process that followed moved steadily. Prosecutors emphasized that the incidents were not misunderstandings, but documented behaviors streamed to a global audience. The footage, they argued, left little room for interpretation. The defense countered that Vitaly's actions were part of a persona, never intended to cause harm, and that cultural differences in humor and online content played a role in how the events were perceived. Still, the case hinged not on intention, but on impact. Residents felt harassed. Property was taken, even if briefly. The atmosphere of the street had been disrupted for entertainment. In the end, the charges stood. After his arrest, Vitaly was processed and held while the court determined the next steps. Reports showed that the charges carried potential fines and further legal consequences, though the final sentencing process remains part of ongoing court actions and negotiations. What is clear is that he faced legal accountability in a country that took the incident seriously. Today, his situation serves as a cautionary tale about the global stage of live streaming. When cameras roll in another country, local laws apply just as firmly as they do to residents. For Vitali, a creator whose career thrived on unpredictability, this moment forced a confrontation with boundaries he had spent years testing. And it leaves a lingering question. In the push for ever more extreme content, how far can a creator go before the world pushes back? Not with comments or dislikes, but with real consequences that cannot be undone by ending the stream. Number 4. Ice Poseidon, Paul Danino. He had spent years broadcasting every corner of his life to an eager audience. But one night in Bangkok, the camera captured a moment that didn't just spark controversy. It triggered a criminal charge in a country where the law leaves no room for interpretation. Before the arrest, Paul Danino, known to millions as Ice Poseidon, was one of the most recognizable faces in the world of IRL streaming. Born in Florida in 1994, he rose to fame on Twitch with a chaotic, unpredictable style. His streams weren't polished productions with scripts or careful editing. They were raw, unscripted windows into his life, where anything could happen and often did. For fans, that unpredictability was the appeal. For critics, it was a liability. By the time he moved his content to other platforms, he had built a loyal audience that followed him around the world as he live streamed from airports, city streets, hotels, festivals, and anywhere he thought something unpredictable might unfold. In June 2023, Bangkok became his latest backdrop, a city known for its vibrant nightlife, crowded streets, and strict laws governing public behavior and content creation. He arrived with his girlfriend, planning to film their travels, interact with viewers, and bring the nonstop energy that had defined his online persona for years. The city's mix of excitement and unpredictability seemed perfect for the kind of content he loved to create. But what started as another travel stream took a sudden turn when he filmed a moment inside a hotel that would become central to the case against him. Imagine a live stream running late at night, the hotel room lit just enough for the camera to catch movement, the chat scrolling rapidly as viewers react in real time. There was no safety buffer, no delay, no moderation team to step in. In the middle of that stream, an interaction between Ice Poseidon and his girlfriend crossed a line under Thai law, a line that viewers outside the country might not fully understand until the consequences became clear. Within hours, the clip was circulating online, and authorities took notice. Thailand enforces some of the strictest regulations in the region concerning public decency and the distribution of material deemed inappropriate for public broadcast. Because the moment had been streamed live and made available online, local officials interpreted it as distributing prohibited content. Early on June 28, 2023, officers from Thailand's Technology Crime Suppression Division located and arrested both Danino and his girlfriend. Police confirmed that the charge centered on the live-streamed moment from the hotel room, which they classified as distributing material that violated the country's obscenity laws. In Thailand, these laws are taken seriously, and violations can carry significant penalties, including fines and potential imprisonment. The investigation moved quickly. Authorities reviewed the footage, collected statements, and documented the sequence of events captured on the live stream. It wasn't a complicated case with missing evidence. The key moment had been broadcast in real time to thousands of viewers. The question wasn't whether it happened, but how it fit under Thai law. As news of the arrest spread, fans around the world reacted in shock. Some argued it was a misunderstanding. Others saw it as an inevitable outcome of a streaming style that often blurred the line between spontaneity and recklessness. But in the eyes of investigators, intent didn't outweigh the fact that the clip had been shared publicly. In the legal process that followed, prosecutors emphasized the clarity of the violation. The footage met the criteria for content prohibited from public distribution. They also underscored that Thailand's legal system applies equally to locals and visiting foreigners. The defense argued that the incident was not meant to be public, that it was part of a pattern of impulsive online behavior rather than an attempt to break the law. But the central issue remained unchanged. The content had been streamed, and the law had been broken. Both Danino and his girlfriend were charged under Thailand's obscenity statutes. While the exact penalties were still subject to court proceedings, Thai law allows for fines and potential jail time depending on the severity of the violation. After being processed, they were released while the case advanced through the legal system, but the charges themselves were serious and carried lasting consequences. For a creator whose brand was built on the thrill of the unexpected, this moment became a stark reminder that live streaming leaves no space for second thoughts. There is no editing room, no opportunity to cut a clip before it spreads, no buffer between a decision and its consequences. In Bangkok, where cultural norms and legal expectations differ sharply from those in many Western countries, a few seconds on camera became the basis for a criminal charge. Today, the incident stands as one of the defining moments in Ice Poseidon's long and often controversial career. It's a turning point that illustrates how live streaming, a medium built on immediacy, can collide with the strict boundaries of real-world law. The case drew global attention not because of its complexity, but because of its clarity. An unedited moment, a strict legal code, and an arrest that followed almost immediately. And it leaves a final thought lingering in the background. When your life plays out live before millions, how many lines are you crossing without realizing it? And what happens when one of them is written into the law of a country far from home? Number 5. Whistlin' Diesel, Cody Detweiler. He was the daredevil of the open road, a YouTube star who revved engines, launched himself over deserts, and challenged physics with massive trucks. But behind all that noise and horsepower, a quiet legal storm was building, culminating in a dramatic arrest in Tennessee. Cody Detweiler, better known as Whistlin' Diesel, made his name by pushing vehicles to their absolute limits. From ramp jumps in his monster truck to drifting heavier-than-life machines off cliffs, his channel was a spectacle of raw power and mechanical bravado. Fans loved it. The bigger the risk, the louder the engine, the more views. Over time, his brand grew, not just as a wild stuntman, but as a creator who seemed immune to the rules of ordinary behavior. But on November 12, 2025, his road of risks ended in handcuffs. Detweiler was arrested in Tennessee, not for a wreck or a wild jump, but for something far more mundane, yet deeply consequential: tax evasion. Prosecutors charged him with 2 felony counts tied directly to a high-end purchase he never fully reported. According to authorities, he had bought a 2020 Ferrari but failed to pay the required sales tax. That gap led investigators to dig deeper, ultimately escalating the matter from a civil oversight to a criminal case. The investigation unfolded quietly at first, but the discovery of the unpaid sales tax raised red flags for state tax authorities. They looked into his records, tracing the luxury car purchase to his personal and business accounts. For someone whose online persona was built on pushing limits, it was ironic. Here, the alleged crime wasn't about what he did on camera, but about what he didn't report off-screen. Once formal charges were filed, legal pressure mounted. The prosecution argued that Detweiler intentionally withheld information to dodge his tax responsibilities, framing it not as a mistake, but as a deliberate plan. In response, his defense insisted there was no willful wrongdoing. They claimed it was a misunderstanding or miscalculation rather than a criminal scheme, and stressed that Cody's focus was always on building his content empire, not on hiding assets. Because this was a financial crime, the courtroom drama didn't involve high-speed crashes or death-defying jumps. Instead, it hinged on documents, invoices, tax forms, bank statements. Each number mattered. The prosecution sought to prove a pattern, not simply a lapse, but a calculated decision to evade the tax obligations that came with his high-ticket purchase. Meanwhile, Detweiler's legal team argued that he was a creator, not a corporate mogul, and that any errors could be corrected. After hearings, the court weighed the evidence. While luxury car purchases can be wrapped up in tax complexities, the scale of the missing payments, combined with his public wealth, made the case serious. Ultimately, the charges stood. Detweiler was convicted on the 2 felony counts of tax evasion. The court imposed penalties, including fines and potential further legal restrictions, underscoring that financial crimes carry just as much weight as more sensational offenses, especially for someone living in the public eye. Following his conviction, Cody faced not just financial consequences, but a damage to his reputation. His fan base, accustomed to watching him barrel over cliffs, was forced to reconcile his daring persona with a conviction born of paperwork and audits. The juxtaposition was jarring. A man who built a digital empire of high-risk thrills now grappling with the sober risks of legal liability. Today, Whistlin' Diesel continues to make content, but the legacy of the arrest lingers. It's a reminder that even the boldest creators, the ones who live their lives at maximum throttle, aren't exempt from real-world rules. His case raises a deeper question. In a world where influencers can earn millions, what responsibility do they bear not just for their spectacle, but for their ordinary obligations, like paying taxes? Number 6. Duke Dennis. He thought it would be the ultimate livestream challenge, a late-night hide-and-seek inside a massive Texas mall. But what began as a playful stunt for millions of viewers quickly spiraled into one of the most unexpected arrests in streaming history. Before any of this, Duke Dennis was best known as a charismatic NBA 2K creator, a member of AMP, and one of the most recognizable faces in the gaming and lifestyle space. He built his name on humor, collaboration, and a laid-back confidence that made him instantly likable. Fans saw him as the guy who could turn any situation into a joke, the one who brought energy into every stream. By 2025, he wasn't just a streamer. He was a cultural figure, with millions watching his every move both online and offline. But on that night in August 2025, the boundary between real life and entertainment blurred. Duke, along with a small group of friends, entered a mall in San Antonio after closing hours. The goal was simple: hide, film it, and reveal the entire adventure to his audience. It was meant to be funny, harmless, the kind of content that usually goes viral. But as they slipped into the empty hallways, alarms began quietly notifying security. They didn't know it yet, but the game had already ended. Imagine the tension of realizing the building you thought was empty wasn't empty at all. Security spotted movement on cameras, and within minutes, police were dispatched. Duke and his friends tried to leave before officers arrived, but the timing was against them. When police entered the building, the group attempted to flee, turning what could have been a simple misunderstanding into a legal chase. The discovery was swift. Officers cornered the group outside the mall, and Duke was detained. The charges came quickly: criminal trespass for entering after hours, and evading arrest for attempting to slip away when law enforcement arrived. For fans used to seeing him laughing with friends or filming high-energy challenges, the image of him being taken into custody felt unreal. It was a moment where the spontaneity of content creation collided with the seriousness of criminal law. What followed was a wave of media attention. Reports highlighted how the entire situation began with a live stream stunt gone wrong. Investigators reviewed footage and statements. Security logs showed exactly when the group entered and how long they remained inside before attempting to run. The prosecution argued that regardless of intent, entering a closed commercial property was a clear violation, and trying to flee from police only intensified the situation. Duke's defense countered that he hadn't meant to cause any harm. They described it as a misjudged attempt at entertainment, not an intentional crime. They stressed that he hadn't damaged property or acted aggressively. He had simply made a poor decision in pursuit of content. But intent aside, the legal system doesn't hinge on whether something was streamed for fun. It hinges on actions. After hearings and negotiations, Duke was found guilty of the 2 charges. The sentencing avoided jail time but imposed fines and conditions, including restrictions meant to ensure future compliance with trespass laws. It was a wake-up call, not only for Duke, but for creators across platforms who sometimes forget how quickly a stunt can cross a legal line. Today, Duke Dennis remains a major figure in the streaming world. He returned to content with the same charisma, but with a new awareness of how thin the boundary can be between entertainment and real-world consequences. And in a way, his arrest left viewers with a lingering thought. When millions are watching and every idea has the potential to go viral, how far is too far when the camera is rolling? Number 7, N3on. He thought it would be just another wild trip, a flashy getaway to Dubai, filled with live streams, pranks, and the kind of chaotic energy his audience expected. But in a city known for strict laws and zero tolerance for public misconduct, one wrong move was enough to turn a carefree vacation into a sudden arrest. Before that moment, N3on, real name Rangish Mutama, had built a reputation as one of the loudest, most unpredictable personalities on Kick and YouTube. With his fast-talking style, constant jokes, and over-the-top reactions, he became a magnet for viewers. His streams were unpredictable, messy, and often controversial, but his fan base grew because he always pushed the boundaries of what a creator might do on camera. By 2024, he had become a recognizable figure in the streaming world, known for high-energy vlogs and collaborations with major online personalities. But in April 2024, those same instincts would lead him somewhere he never expected, a holding cell in one of the world's most heavily monitored cities. While filming content around Dubai, N3on and members of his team recorded themselves in public without fully understanding the restrictions on filming government personnel. At one point, they ended up capturing Dubai police officers on camera, something strictly prohibited without permission. To them, it seemed like a harmless mistake. To authorities, it was a violation of federal law. Imagine the moment when officials approached, the sudden shift in mood, the realization that what felt like casual filming had crossed a legal line. According to N3on's own account, the group was confronted, questioned, and quickly detained. What made the situation even more tense was that the footage was broadcast publicly, drawing immediate attention both in Dubai and internationally. Once in custody, the reality set in. Filming police officers without authorization is taken extremely seriously in the United Arab Emirates. What he assumed would be a short conversation turned into hours of interrogation and legal processing. The charge was straightforward: illegally filming law enforcement, a violation that can lead to fines, jail time, or deportation depending on the circumstances. During the investigation, authorities reviewed the footage, questioned the group, and evaluated whether the recording was intentional or part of a larger stunt. This became the turning point. Officials concluded the incident was not malicious but careless, a result of unfamiliarity with local laws and the pressures of constant live streaming. The legal outcome came quickly. After cooperating with authorities, Enthrion was released. There was no lengthy trial, no prolonged detention, but the arrest itself remained on record. It was a narrow escape from what could have been a far more severe punishment in a country with strict digital media regulations. Today, Enthrion is back online, still streaming, still loud, still himself. But the Dubai arrest left a mark not only on his public image, but on the larger conversation about content creators traveling abroad. It raised a lingering question for viewers and streamers alike. In a world where everything is recorded, what happens when the camera doesn't just capture a moment, but creates the crime itself? Number 8, Johnny Somali Ismail. He arrived in Seoul thinking it would be another stop in his long chain of provocative IRL streams, the kind that thrived on shock, confrontation, and pushing boundaries. But in a country known for strict public order laws and low tolerance for disruptive behavior, his usual online persona collided head-on with real-world consequences. Before this arrest, Johnny Somali, an American IRL streamer whose real name is Ismail, had already built a controversial reputation. His streams often centered on confrontations, pranks, and behavior designed to stir reactions from strangers. While some viewers watched for the unpredictability, others viewed him as deliberately antagonistic. Even so, he had an audience that kept growing, drawn in by the volatility he brought to every broadcast. By 2024, he was known not for gaming or commentary, but for roaming public spaces with a camera and letting chaos unfold. But when he arrived in South Korea in late 2024, the tone of his content took a drastic turn. While live streaming in busy neighborhoods, he engaged in offensive acts toward locals, ignored repeated warnings, and entered restricted areas during his broadcasts. To his viewers, it was another night of reckless antics. To residents and authorities, it was a disturbance that escalated with each new video clip shared online. Imagine the tension building as police grew increasingly aware of him, not just because of complaints, but because his own live streams broadcast his actions in real time. Officers monitored the footage, documented incidents, and tracked his movements across the city. What began as minor public disturbances soon accumulated into a pattern of behavior that local authorities could no longer overlook. The breaking point came after several incidents captured on stream, including confrontations with bystanders and alleged trespassing inside private or semi-restricted locations. Police identified him, approached him, and detained him under South Korean public order laws. The charges he faced included disturbing the peace, assault, and trespassing, serious offenses in a country where disruptive conduct is handled swiftly and firmly. The investigation became one of the most publicized aspects of his case. Authorities reviewed hours of footage, collected witness statements, and traced the timeline of his actions across multiple nights. Every inconsistency he offered in interviews was contrasted with clips recorded on his own stream. What he described as just content was seen by investigators as a series of deliberate acts that impacted residents, businesses, and public safety. There was no rapid release. Unlike previous incidents in other countries where he had been detained briefly, South Korea took a more structured legal approach. Prosecutors prepared a case built around documented behavior, community complaints, and the international attention surrounding his actions. His defense argued that the confrontations were exaggerated by online editing and that he had not intended to cause harm. But intent mattered far less than the documented results of his broadcasts. As the process unfolded, Johnny Somali was kept in custody under investigation, facing multiple felony-level allegations. South Korean law allows detention during active investigation when authorities believe further incidents could occur, or when there is extensive evidence to review. That's where he remained, a sharp contrast to the freedom he once used to roam with a camera streaming to thousands. Today, his case stands as one of the starkest examples of what happens when the unpredictability of IRL streaming collides with strict local law enforcement. And it leaves a lingering question. In a world where streaming rewards the most extreme reactions, what happens when the pursuit of online attention finally outruns the boundaries of the real world? Number 9, Jason Mr. Based Itzler. He was once the kind of figure people whispered about. Bold, loud, and always selling a larger-than-life image of himself. But behind the showmanship was a long and complicated criminal history that would follow him through every chapter of his career, even after he resurfaced online as a live stream personality. Long before he ever appeared on Kick as Mr. Based, Jason Itzler was already known to the public. In the early 2000s, he built an image as an eccentric entrepreneur in New York City, proudly calling himself the king of his own private escort business. At first, he framed himself as a flashy promoter who lived fast and talked faster. But as his business expanded, so did the scrutiny. Investigators began watching him, journalists wrote about him, and slowly the story shifted from colorful self-promotion to serious criminal allegations. By the mid-2000s, those suspicions hardened into charges. Itzler was arrested and later convicted of promoting prostitution, money laundering, and drug trafficking, a set of offenses that led to significant prison time. For years, he moved through the criminal justice system, serving sentences and appearing in courtrooms rather than nightclubs or business events. Imagine the contrast. Someone who once projected unstoppable confidence now navigating mandatory hearings, legal restrictions, and parole oversight. Even after his initial convictions, his legal troubles did not fully stop. He faced additional arrests connected to violations, disputes, and ongoing investigations surrounding his activities. Each case added another layer to the public's perception of him, not as a showman, but as a repeat offender with a lengthy record. Prosecutors often pointed to the pattern: businesses that skirted laws, financial operations that raised alarms, and behavior that clashed repeatedly with legal boundaries. Years later, in an era when many controversial figures turned to live streaming, Itzler reappeared online. As Mr. Based, he streamed on Kick, presenting himself as blunt, unfiltered, and unpredictable. Some viewers saw him as a chaotic performer. Others knew him as someone whose criminal past was not a storyline, but a documented reality. The combination made his streams polarizing, a mix of humor, confrontational moments, and flashes of the persona that once drew headlines for all the wrong reasons. But no matter how much time had passed, his legal history remained one of the defining elements of his public identity. His past convictions for promoting prostitution, money laundering, drug-related offenses, and assault formed a trail of records that appeared again and again in news articles, court summaries, and online discussions. He had served multiple prison terms, completed sentences, and re-entered society more than once, a cycle that shaped how the public viewed him long before he ever turned on a live stream camera. To this day, Jason Itzler continues to be a controversial figure, known as much for his online presence as for the long list of crimes he was legally found guilty of. And as viewers watch him in real time, one thought lingers in the background. When someone builds a persona on boldness and chaos, where does the performance end? And where does the real story begin? Number 10, Prod1GYX, Robert Paz. He was known online as the guy who broke gaming records, someone whose biggest controversies were usually tied to competition, not crime. But in 2021, all of that changed in a single afternoon, when police arrived at his door and revealed that the story the public thought they knew about him was only a small part of the truth. Before his arrest, Robert Paz, known online as Prod1GYX, was a Twitch streamer with a niche but loyal following. He once held a Guinness World Record for Rock Band, which gave him early recognition in the gaming community. His streams were mellow, mostly focused on rhythm games, commentary, and casual chats with viewers. For many, he seemed like a harmless, low-profile figure in an otherwise loud and dramatic online world. Nobody expected his name to appear in a criminal case, much less one involving accusations of the highest severity. But on March 2021, that changed. Police in Washington state opened a case after receiving a report involving a minor. As detectives investigated, they gathered statements, digital evidence, and timelines that pointed toward Paz. Imagine the moment investigators feel the puzzle pieces start falling into place, when hours of interviews and reviews begin aligning into a single, disturbing narrative. It was during this phase that the case shifted from suspicion to formal action. Officers moved quickly. Paz was arrested and charged with 4 first-degree felony offenses involving a minor, the most serious category of such charges under state law. The legal terminology was direct and unambiguous in court filings, even if the public discussions softened the language. Authorities held him on $200,000 bail, underscoring the gravity of the allegations and the risk factors prosecutors argued were present. The investigation continued even after the arrest. Detectives reviewed digital communications, interviewed witnesses, and reconstructed events tied to the accusations. For viewers who had known him only through gameplay streams, the news felt impossible. Online forums filled with shock, not speculation, but disbelief that someone with such a quiet online footprint could be at the center of a case like this. As the legal process moved forward, prosecutors emphasized the seriousness of the charges, noting that first-degree offenses of this nature carry some of the heaviest penalties available under Washington law. The defense challenged elements of the case, but the evidence assembled during the investigation remained the core of the proceedings. Every hearing, every filing was another reminder that this was no misunderstanding, no online drama. It was a criminal case with life-altering consequences. Because these charges were still active, Paz did not return to streaming. His presence online disappeared almost overnight. Court records showed a case that would move slowly, with procedural steps, evaluations, and repeated delays, the kind typical in complex cases involving minors. Years later, the matter remains tied to the 2021 arrest, with no public return to content creation and no indication that he will ever re-enter the online world he once participated in. And for viewers, one lingering question remains: how can someone appear so ordinary on the surface, yet carry a story so drastically different behind the screen?